everyone, and welcome to my updated episode on setting up warps on your maps. The last of my updated mapping episodes, but the one I have been the most excited to make. DSPRE has some amazing features that really make setting up warps so much easier and more visual to do. And even more importantly, you can now set everything up in only one tool. So I am going to gush a bit in this video, even more than I already have, which again, you will only understand why if you've suffered through the steps from the original episode. If you haven't seen it, just use the tone of my voice as an indication of how much better things are now, and I guess also how much shorter this episode is than the original. Alright, firstly, I want to explain the purple warp tiles I placed back in episode 3 a bit more. So let me open my ROM from the last episode in DSPRE. So I'll come here, open DSPRE, alright, and I will open Platinum 3 Maps Town, which again will make a brand new contents folder. And I just have to get to my map, Testington, so I'm going to go to the matrix, and I put that on map number 4. There we are. And I want to look at the Move Permissions tab, where the purple tiles are over here on Type. So as you can see, these warp tiles line up with the doors of the buildings, and these down here line up with my cave entrances. So like I was saying back in episode 3, different types of warps need different tiles set here. For example, these 4 are all number 69, and that is because this is the door warp, which I can show you on this pick list. There we go. So this specific tile is needed as it holds the coating that causes the doors to swing open and closed when you trigger the warp by stepping on it. Where the caves work a bit different and use a combination of 2 warp tiles. This left cave needs 6D and 63, which is left warp and warp entrance left. Where I believe this tile handles forcing the player to walk to the left towards the cave entrance, and this tile handles how the screen fades to black as you enter the cave. And then these warps are pretty much the same thing, just for the right side. So, your goal is to make sure that you place the correct collision tile on the correct spot for the warps you want to use. And the best way to learn about that is to look at the default maps in the game. So if I switch back to the Matrix editor, I can open up these maps to see how they're set up. So for example, I can open up map 47. This is where I learned how a cave to the right is set up, where it uses 6C, which I can see better if I right click it, and there's 6C there. They do show up a little weird on here. And also 62. And then I could also look at map 15, where I can see the Pokemon Center here that uses 69. Or it's so nice that you can see the buildings here now, so it's really easy to tell which tiles are used for which building. So like over here, we now have the schoolhouse, which does not use 69, it uses 6E. And that's because the schoolhouse doesn't have a door, so it wouldn't use the door warp. And it's also important to point out that if you check the collision tab, a 69 tile does have a red square, number 80, underneath it, but 6E does not. So it's also important to check if there's a red tile used for the warp that you want, as that affects how the warp behaves. So there are a number of details to keep track of, but it's so nice that DSPRE just shows you all these things all together to make it really easy to get used to and learn. But okay, that's how I knew how to set up my move permissions. Now let's move into actually setting up a warp. These are configured on the eventing of a map. So let me get to the map header for Testington. So I gotta go to the header subtab, and then click header 334. I can jump to that header here, and I can go open events. There we are. And I will be focusing on the warp subtab here. And all I have to do is click add, And I already have a warp here in the corner. And it's important to line up these warps with the collision tiles you saw on the Move Permissions tab. Which is why it's so cool that DSPRE just shows you them here as well, for a really good reference. So I can just click right on this collision, and that will move the warp and just place it there. And then it's just as simple as to add another one, put it for the gym, add another one for the Pokemon Center, another for the Pokemart, and one for my left cave, which goes on the tile that sticks out. And that is the same for the one on the right as well. So now comes the part where I need to tell each warp where I want to go. For my example, I'm just going to use pre-built locations that are already in Platinum. So for example, I'm going to use my warp for the Pokemon Center to send me to the Sand Gem Pokemon Center. So I can select that warp by right-clicking it, which will change the red outline over here. And my goal is to pick the destination header over here and the hook ID. And since I'm using an existing warp, I can just find the original warp in the game and copy that. So I'll go ahead and save my events here. There we go. So to find it, I want to come over here and just type in Sand Gem, which comes up as town number 2, Sand Gem, and I can go open events. Okay, so there's the warp that I want to copy. If I right-click it, that brings me right here, and that one is using 420 and hook 0. So I just come back to the events of Testington. There we are. I right-click my Pokemon Center, set this one to 420, and leave this as 0. So now if I save this first, we now get to the one single feature that I have been the most excited to show off, the Test Warp button. I can just click this, and if I've set it correctly, I am now in the Sand Gem Pokemon Center. Just like that. I can already tell that I've done it correctly. And now while I'm here, I can set the warp to send me back to my map. So I want to link to the door, which is already highlighted. And I know that the header of my map is 334. Right here. And the hook that I want is number 2. So if I save that, and then test, okay, I am now back on my map. And then just to be clear, the reason why I knew that was number 2 is because this one, this warp, is number 2 here on the list. So that means that when I warp back here, it's going to land me on this spot on my map. And that's the same thing. This one's number 0, because if I test the warp that I land on is number 0 here. And what's also cool about the test warp as well, whenever you test it, it will make sure to highlight the correct warp here to show where you're landing. So you know you have the correct header and also the correct hook ID. So with the power of this button, I can tell that my warp is already working. And after messing up the Mart warp in my original episode in front of everybody and having to fix it during the episode, I love this feature very, very much. Oh, and you may have already caught this, but just to be extra clear on what we're working with here, this number down here, 420, is the header number that my destination map uses. So if I go to the header editor, and I come on down to 420, that matching number, and I go to open events, I land on that exact same event file here as well. It's not really an important detail, but I kind of wanted to help kind of connect the dots of where these numbers are coming from and how they relate to each other, just in case that's helpful. So I can click the warp that I set, and then I can test it, and I'm back on my map. Okay, so I still have 5 more warps to do. I've shown you how to find these numbers, so I'm just going to quickly fill in the rest with a chart that I have off screen. So we'll have my cave, which needs to be 218. Anchor number 3, Oh, and just so you know, since I changed the hook ID, I want to make sure that this number here updates before I go to a different warp. And so I want to click on any other field like that one. There we go. That updates it there, and now I can go to the right cave and set this one to 207. And this one stays at number 0. So I can just jump to the Pokemart, which I'll use Sanjen's Pokemart, which is 419. Anchor 0. So I'll use the gym, or I'll just point to the first gym, which is header number 47. Hook number 0. Now, so this house, I want to set to the player's house. And that one is 414. With hook number 0. And then I just save the events file. Or now I'll set the returning warps. So we'll start with the left cave. And now also I can show you that if you have a warp selected with the red outline and you right click it again, that already tests the warp. So you can do that more quickly. Okay, so this is where I wanted to land. Perfect. That's number 3 on this side. So I need to pick my header, which is 334. And that was hook number 4. So I save. And then I right click it to test it. Okay, and I'm back and I'm highlighting on the right one. Great. So then right click and right click again. That's the one that I wanted. So again, just up a little bit to 334. That one is hook number 5. Save. If you don't save, then when you test the warp, you leave the event file and your changes are undone. So it's important to save. Okay, go ahead and right click. And then do the Mart, double right click. Only one warp in here, so we're already good. So again, we go to 334. And this one was hook number 3. Save. And right click. Okay, that's all good there. And the Pokemon Center is all good, so when I go to the gym, another right click. And only one warp again, super simple. So come way down to 334 again. And this was hook number 1. Alright, save. And come back. Yep, highlighted, good. And then the player's house. Right click. Where yet again we go for 334. And this was the topmost one, so that is hook 0. Save. Test. And we're good there as well. And okay, all of my warps are now set. But this last warp I did here, like I said, is the player's house in Platinum. I purposely saved this one for last to give me time to mention something. I wanted to use this house in my original warping video, but the ROM would always freeze when I tried. I have since learned how to stop it from doing that, and I wanted to quick showcase that in this video to show you guys how to edit the player's house so you can use it too. So first, I'll test the warp again to go to the player's house. Just so I can show you. So when you come down the stairs at the start of the game, and you step here, usually the ROM will freeze when you stand there. And I have learned that that is because a level script is triggering when you land there, where your mom wants to talk to you. So since I didn't know about clearing level scripts back in that old episode, I couldn't get around that. So really, all I have to do is come to the header for this map and clear them. And so I know from my warp that that is header 414. So I come to the header editor and I click on 414. There we go. I just go to open level scripts and just click clear scripts. That was it. I just didn't know to do that. And then I can go one step beyond for you guys, where what you want to do as well is get myself back into the player's house, and then I can test this warp to get up into the player's room. Where if you don't want to do what I did in my second episode, where the player spawns at the intro to my map and you want to spawn here, you want to clear out the eventing on this map. At the very least, you want to clear out these triggers here. Oh, right from the bottom. Because that means that you can step off that tile and your rival will no longer talk to you. So you can go ahead and save that, like so. Oh, well, I guess you wouldn't want to clear out the warp here, because this is necessary to go downstairs. So you clear out the rest of the tiles, but don't clear the warp. Because we can use that to go back downstairs. And then I can use the warp that's... I should say, the warp that's hidden under this trigger to get back to my map. And okay, that house should now be ready to use. The reason why I want this house so badly to show you is because the game is coded that when you white out, if you haven't reached a Pokemon Center yet, you are sent back to the bottom floor of that house. So if you're not able to put that house on your map, then that means you're going to be stuck outside your maps if you ever white out. So I'll go over all this more at the Death Warp section at the end of this video. It's going to be really useful. Oh, also, for those of you who are familiar with my original warping episode, you'll remember that I had trouble using 2 of these numbers over here because they just wouldn't work. So I had to add 2 extra warps on here at the bottom to get around it and then just not use those numbers. The reason why that hasn't come up in this new episode is because clearing the level scripts on header 334 is what fixed that. So just in case you were wondering why that hasn't carried over into this new episode, it's because we've gotten smarter. Oh, and also, if you remember, I told you to put the Spawnable here to prevent that black screen issue in previous episodes. Now that I've added warps, I don't need this anymore. So I can just go ahead and remove that, since it doesn't really do anything. And okay, so all my warps are done and I am ready to go, so I can go ahead and just save this one more time, and then save a test ROM. So I'll make a new one called Platinum 3 Maps. Warp. Go ahead and save it. And there we go. And I can open that in Desmumi. Well, I'll open my new ROM. And I will use the power editing just to fast forward past the intro this time. Okay, here we are. So, I admit I am much less nervous about this walk up north than I was in the original episode, thanks to that test button. But here we come. We're back up here in Testington, and if everything works, I should now be able to walk in here, yes, and back, walk over here, in, and out, cool, and then I'll walk in here. Door works, great, come back out. There's the door again. So then this door. And back out. Beautiful. Alright, only 2 to go. Can I do this one with no problems this time? Yes, I can, back this way. And then back into the player's house. And out of the player's house. And yes! Oh, it worked. And then go into the player's house. And then go up the stairs even. Oh. I did forget about this message. This is the text that comes up when you first load up to the intro, as if the TV is done talking with you. This comes up automatically, so this is done by a level script. So what I should have done is also cleared out level scripts of map 415. But anyway, I can walk around here, no rival. Oh, I guess that still works, that's okay. I didn't clear out everything. Okay, I'm down here, no crash, cool, cool, cool. Got the door. Yay! It worked. I now have my own living, breathing world that I can build from. Like I can come over here, build my own like cave maps and lead them to where I want to. and just kind of spiderweb their way out and make my own place. And hopefully now, so can you, if I've done everything correctly. But before I wrap up, I can now finally, after all these teasings through different episodes, just really quick showcase that whole death warp thing. So if I come down in here and I get myself into some trouble in the grass, right now I don't have a Pokemon, so I'm going to send out this monstrosity, and if I try to do anything, it's just not a Pokemon, so this all just kind of fails and doesn't work. So that it will wipe me out, and I come back here. Now, since I did not touch the main scripting of this map, the healing portion here still works. So she'll still heal me up like so. Yes, thank you. Oh, no, I know, thank you, sorry. So I can now come back outside, and I'm still on my map. That is why I wanted to give you access to this house in this example. So I can now do what I want. And now, actually, the way death warps work is that when you step into a Pokemon Center, the warp spot now becomes the Pokemon Center here. So if I go back down, and I get into some more trouble here in the grass, where I'll just try to fight. Nope, can't do nothing. I'll white out again. Okay, and then they'll come back here and then heal me. Or again, it's interesting. After we do this and I end this conversation, she doesn't give me back that Pokeball. I'm not sure what coding makes that do that. It's very interesting. Anyway, does not matter. We are still good. Ha-ha! So each time that I enter the player's house, I'll change here, and if I enter the Pokemon Center, it'll change here. And I have access to both. So I do not yet know how to edit Death Warp to go to different locations, but at least now you have access to all of the buildings that you need to utilize the existing ones. So you should still be good for a start. And I guess that's it. That is everything for my updated mapping episodes. So the video that you want to check out next after you get all this working is my scripting video. Because right now I still don't have the Pokédex or Pokemon or anything like that. So I use my example maps from this episode to create a scripting example that will fill in those gaps. Where I know it's like my longest episode, an hour and 45 minutes, but I swear I did my best to polish it up as best I could, so that it should be worth your time. And in fact, I included the script files from that episode in the Tools zip folder, and you can use that scripting 1.5 episode that I made to insert them into a ROM where you've also inserted my mapping files from these episodes, and you can have an example ROM up pretty quick and hopefully learn more easily from there. Because I think having access to being able to put your hands on these files should be able to help you learn, because this can get kinda complex. Oh, and also, you are fully allowed to use these files however you see fit. I don't need any credit or anything for them. These were purely made just to help people learn. So get out there and have lots of fun with Pokemon DS hacking. Not me though. This was a lot of videos in a row, so I'm actually gonna go have a good nap. Good night, everybody!